Alright, listen up everyone. They've announced that the technical regulations are changing for next season. Now there's a risk a lot of our hard work could be undone if we're not careful, so let's figure out how to mitigate this. Drivers, take a look at the developments we have and let us know what you want to invest in protecting. Alright everyone, let's get on top of this.
Well then, there we have it. Regulation changes coming for Season 5 of F1 2020 Career Mode. Now, to bring you guys up to speed, we're at the second last episode. We only have this race and the next to adapt all of the incoming changes for next season. So whatever we don't adapt in this episode and the next gets scrapped for next season. Now, I'm praying that we don't lose everything like we did last season, but the lateness of this announcement is going to catch some people out, I'm sure. We'll get to what the actual affected departments are in a minute, but welcome, guys, to another episode of Career Mode. This is the Mexican Grand Prix. Shortened season has really thrown a spanner into the works. Normally, a regulation change gets announced around Singapore, Japan time, and that gives you like 5-6 races, maybe even longer, time to react. But we have no time to react, essentially, to the proposed changes. So we fast forward time, we've got some upgrades coming in, which we did last episode. The affected department is, thankfully for us, or maybe not so thankfully, reliability. Now, this is actually the most fleshed out department we have. We're the most reliable car in the field. That's one thing we've had this season. That and our engine power has been phenomenal. But we're set to lose one of our biggest strengths. Though you can argue it's probably not a big deal because we're running a shortened season. And I'm pretty certain I'm going to do the same next season. So durability won't be so important, but things like the gearbox could be a concern next year. Anyway, performance index, slight uptake in performance over our rivals. Everyone moved up a little bit, I think. The status quo pretty much remains the same. But heading into Mexico, we should be able to contest for top 5, podium, or a win, depending on how things go. Because this is a strong track for the player. Always has been, and maybe it always will be. Friday practice was alright. We got P9 on a medium compound run, which isn't too bad, to be honest, considering we ran our really old engine and we didn't, show our full hand. We did so in practice too, though, and we end up in P3, right behind the two top teams in F1, the two informed drivers gunning for the championship. Max Verstappen can win the title today. He's leading around by 18, 19 points over Valtteri Bottas in the standings. No one else has a mathematical chance of winning the championship at this point. So we will be losing the number 1 on our car after the next episode. So it's been a pretty poor championship defense. But in my defense, we haven't exactly had the machinery to back up our performance last season. But yeah, we're going to move into the Grand Prix weekend in a second. We're heading into qualifying now. We're going to change the engine components. Why did that say penalty? Penalty warning. Qualifying is coming up. You can't change the engine after qualifying. You can't change the engine components after Q1. But we're getting penalty warnings. Why? I know there was some kind of ruling about FP3, like Parc Fermé being in effect from FP3. I thought they scrapped that. That must be a thing. That must actually be a thing. So we've been caught out again. We've been caught out again with the engine regulations. For God's sake. So, no matter what, we're getting a penalty and we're starting at the back of the grid. So my logic is we're just going to take a brand new engine like I should have last episode. And we have to start from the back, but we have a brand new engine all round. So, yippee. I did qualifying 1 just to see what the pace is like. We're not going to do the rest of quali because there's absolutely no point.
What a great day out there today. Let's talk about what happened. Do you think that grid penalty was justified?
I'm gonna say absolutely not, but at the same time, I've stuffed up again, haven't I? I don't know what's going on there. I normally, in my defense, I normally change the engine after FP2, but I went from FP2 straight to, I pressed the qualifying, go to qualifying screen, and it wasn't qualifying yet. I thought it would have been okay. I can't actually believe that's the first time I've done that particular thing, but that's annoying. That is really annoying. Race time.
Here we go then. It's time to race in Mexico City, a place which gave Honda their first ever victory back in 1965. American Richie Ginther won from third on the grid. And what are the Honda-powered cars this year? Well, Red Bull have been going strong here in recent seasons, so can they keep that record going today? And I'm joined once again by Anthony Davidson to bring you the lowdown for today's race. Let's talk about the day. Looks like they've got a tough race in store today as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the compromised start.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Young superstar Max Verstappen starts from pole position and Alexander Albon lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Bottas, Charles Leclerc and Ricciardo, Gasly, Kvyat, Ocon and George Russell, Stroll, Sainz, Antoine Hubert and Magnussen, Giovinazzi, Norris, Nicholas Latifi and Mick Schumacher, Ireland, De Vries, Matsushita and Day. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Like you've let me down, Jeff, countless times this season. I mean, let's not get started about Japan and the tyre compound change. But here we are for the grid for the Mexican Grand Prix. Trying to erode that race from my memory, ends up propping right back up. One thing that would be cool, maybe for future, is to be warned that you're going to get a penalty if you don't change your engine right now, like they do for the gearbox. But I digress. Two-stop race for us today, medium, soft, softs. It's a pretty equal strategy between the one and the two-stop, but I'm going to gun for the fastest lap with softs at the end. 5 red lights, and we are underway for not the Japanese Grand Prix, the Mexican Grand Prix. And the only way up from here is, I've already said it, it's up. So let's see if we can win. Can we win this race? Can we do anything? I think this could be low-key a pretty good strategy for us. Being on the medium compound tire, pretty much everyone, is starting on the soft. And tire wear is really, really high around here. So I'm surprised to see all the back markers on the soft compound tire strategy. Schumacher diving up the inside of about 5 drivers there and gets himself up in a P16 in this Mexican Grand Prix. That's insane. What an overtake from Schumacher. For an AI, that is bold. Anyway, we try to force a move around the outside of Norris, turn to the inside for the next left-hander. That's a lot of understeer there. Caught up in the wake of Giovinazzi. But it's a net gain of 5 spots. Not in one corner, though. I'm not Mick Schumacher, but I'm getting there. Bloody hell. Mick Schumacher. First teammate of the series, and he is still languishing at the back. Maybe one of these days he'll get a good drive. I think as teams, as drivers retire, the young guns are going to start propping up and filling these good seats. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the shape of my career mode is like in a couple of seasons' time. Oh, Mick is out of the Grand Prix. Well, that's the commentator's curse right there. I'm sorry, Mick. Hopefully he can bring out a safety car for me. But that's unlucky. That is very I think he was pretty unlucky in my season of career mode as well when he was with the team. I think he had quite a few retirements and was never able to show his full potential at times. But that's P13 for us. We've made up a lot of spots so far. Around the outside of Stroll. Very close there at the last corner. And we can now set our sights after the top 10 runners, who are all going to be struggling on their soft compound tyres. Now, they're either going to stop really early here, like lap 6, 7, or they're going to try and stretch it out and really suffer the consequences of the rear tyres going off. So, whichever way you look at it, I think we're looking pretty good. As long as we can stay with this pack, you know, the amount of positions we've gained already is quite telling of how good of a Grand Prix this could be. Because we're getting our slower tyre out of the way early, and we're staying with, well, relatively the race leaders. The top 3 are breaking away, that being Bottas, Albon, and Verstappen. But I tell you what, a P4 or a P5 could well and truly be on the cards today. It's an OP strategy in esports, and it carries over to career mode as well, because we're utilizing the slower tyre now. We're actually getting through traffic, and we're using the slipstream and DRS to leapfrog past other people and stay with the lead pack. Once the race opens up a little bit more, as we get our first warning of the race, once the race opens up a little bit more later, we can use the pace of the softs. We've got 2 stints of softs to utilize the rest of this race. Now, I don't know what everyone else is going to do with their strategy, because it's pretty close between a 1 and a 2 stop. The 2 stop being slightly faster. I think everyone's going to stop twice. If they stop once, go hards, they're going to have nothing left at the end of the race. And I think if there's a safety car, amazing for us. But if not, we can still chase people down if they do a 1 stop. Regardless, if they do a 2 stop, they've got to put on mediums at the end. So I think, yeah, we're doing really good work at the moment, just working our way through the field. We haven't had a great run through that chicane after overtaking Hubert. He nearly gets past us once again. But we hold on to the position, and now we can focus on just the top 10 runners, who all have started on used tyres for this race. So their pace isn't going to be great. They're going to be stopping slightly earlier than the guys behind me, and maybe that can help as well. If the leaders can stop early, get caught up behind back markers or midfield runners, then anything's possible in this race, I would say. Russell is up next. He's closing in on Ricciardo, who's closing in on Danny Kvyat in the Alpha Tauri, and then there's a bit of an air gap to the next Renault of Esteban Ocon. So imperative that we get through these guys now. To be fair, they actually have stayed out a little bit longer than what I was anticipating. I thought they would have been in by now on their softs, but that just shows the tyre wear upgrades of the top teams. Here they come now. Ricciardo's in, same to Danny Kvyat. I think Alexander Albon. No, it's Verstappen who stopped early in the Red Bull. That's interesting, because stopping early in a race like this is not beneficial. I think overcut is probably the way to go. In comes Hamilton. There goes Leclerc in for the Ferrari. That's a bit of a slow stop for those guys, and out they go once again. We now have the podium in our sight. We're in the podium positions now as Russell dives it into the pit lane. That's pretty good timing for us. We get his DRS, and we're able to run in clear air like we were in Japan. Whenever we had clear air in the last race, we were on fire. So I'm going to utilize whatever pace we've got left in these medians. We are going to be stopping very shortly. I think around 14. Oh yeah, 14. There we go. My memory isn't the best, so to actually remember what the race strategy was is a bit of a minor win for me. Anyway, you can see this is the midfield runner. That's Antoine Hubert holding up Verstappen. Either way, one of the Red Bulls and a Mercedes, and was doing really good work. It was Albon he was holding up, because look at the gap from Verstappen to Albon. It's 7 seconds. That's a huge divide between race leader and podium runners. And with our strategy still yet to play out, we could be on target for a really good result now. I think podium is on the cards, maybe P2 in this race, because now for the rest of the Grand Prix, we're going to be on softs. And we're going to have considerably fresher tyres than those around us. 4-5 lap fresher softs is going to be absolutely monumental for us. So as long as we can get through this next train of cars pretty quickly, we'll be on target for some big points today as we rejoin on the circuit, and it is P12 in this race. So starting off this second stint in a much better position than what we started off the first stint, obviously being in P22, but now we've got the good tyres on, and the people in front of us still on fast tyres, but they're a bit older than ours, so I think we should be able to get through the pack pretty well, especially Daniel Ricciardo on the mediums, up the inside. He did defend a little bit, but he didn't fully commit to it, so it was a bit awkward there. We go around the outside at the next right-hander, and we're now into P11. Next up is Sainz, and that McLaren is pretty speedy in a straight line. We're not able to do anything on the DRS straight. I didn't go full rich. I didn't run overtake down the whole straight. I wanted to save battery, and I think that might have been a mistake. I wanted to ease off a little bit, cool the engine, and we got held up massively through that chicane. So that's costly in terms of time. We overtake into this next left-hander, but I think if we're in that position again, where we're 8, 9 tenths away from the car in front, I might just deplete the whole battery and try and overtake on the straight, because you saw how much time I lost in that chicane. I'm really thinking about the end game here. We can't afford to have any delays if we want to get a podium in this race. So Russell is in that weird gap where I probably could overtake him on this straight if I dump everything on this straight. So I'm going to try and do the opposite of what I did to Sainz. So let's fastest lap of the Grand Prix as well. 1.7 seconds faster than my previous best, and 3/10 better than what Verstappen did just a few laps ago. So here we go, rich and overtake. We utilize the slipstream to good effect there. Slipstream is the most potent at the back end of the straight. I should have known that for Sainz. Probably could have got him. I was a bit too conservative, and we didn't make the same mistake this time. We cut on to lap 18, and again we're in the slipstream of another car ahead, but Ocon has DRS. That is the difference this time. The difference in grip right now is insane. I've got 5 lap fresher softs, but I feel like I'm overtaking a bunch of F2 cars right now. It's ridiculous. We get up the inside of Ocon. Kvyat is up next. He might be a little bit more difficult to overtake. That AlphaTauri is an absolute beast in this field. I'd say arguably probably the 3rd best car in this field. Maybe not today, but over the course of the season, the AlphaTauri has consistently been a very good car. I think he might be boxing right here. He pulls off to the right-hand side and gives us P7 in this Mexican Grand Prix. Verstappen is in, but he's in for hard compound tires. Verstappen, what are you doing, fella? You're on a 2-stop strategy, and you're using the hards. Red Bull, are you okay? That is not a Red Bull-esque strategy. Red Bull go very aggressive with their strategies, not ultra safe. I didn't realize you guys turned into Mercedes. But there we go. Verstappen did have a 6-second lead over Albon. So I guess he can afford to go hards and just really make sure he can go to the end without a puncture. But each to their own. That might bring him into the contention for whatever position we can get in this race, because it's looking like we can probably get P2, maybe, if we really push in this Grand Prix. The upper midfield, the upper runners for the podium all got held up by midfield runners at the end of the first stint, and so it's really nerfed the effectiveness of their soft compound tire at the start of this stint, and it's brought me into range with them. So here we go. We're overtaking Bottas, who was trying to run long. He's obviously trying to go to mediums in the next stint. Was unable to brake late enough to get the overtake done there, so we're going to sit in behind for now. Maybe focus on a better exit here, get on the power really early here. But it's not an overtaking zone, so we have to bide our time, unfortunately. Wait for the DRS straight. He boxes anyway, gives us a position. Leclerc is in, and we lead the Grand Prix once again. So now this is going to be a really good indication as to where we're going to rejoin in this race. Verstappen is 10 seconds back. A pit stop is around 22 seconds transit time. But then we've got 11 laps to go. We're going to be on the new soft compound tire, and we're probably going to be like a second a lap, maybe initially 2 seconds a lap faster than Verstappen when I come out of the pit lane on my new tires. So I think this is going to be pretty close. I think we could get P2, maybe even P1, if the pace and the consistency, especially at the end of the race, is good enough. That's what it all comes down to. I've really been pushing. This has been a race against the clock now to get the absolute best race time, to stay in the fight of chasing down the race leaders now, and it all comes down to this, with the best part of 9 laps to go. We catch up to Matsushita, who's a lapped car in this race. Hopefully gets out of the way. We will get DRS on Matsushita and Bottas. No, we won't, because we just came out of the pit lane. Never mind. Regardless, we get past the lap car. Bottas is up next. We're going to utilize this outlap here to probably save a little bit of fuel. I did underfuel the car by like 2 or 3 laps, and on current fuel consumption, we should be absolutely fine, but we will need to run lean revs through the stadium section, probably most laps, just to make sure we get to the end. Anyway, we're overtaking Bottas around the outside, P6. Next up is Leclerc. He is just... oh, it's a second warning, we can't cut anymore. But we caught Leclerc so quickly, it was insane. This is still the same lap that we overtook Bottas, I believe. And this is going to be the fastest lap of the Grand Prix by an absolute mile. A 1:12.8. Unable to go purple in the third sector. That's understandable because of the dirty air. We're in the DRS of Leclerc, pretty much alongside. He really had good straight line speed there, to be fair, in the Ferrari. And pretty good under brakes, too. So that was a difficult move to overtake, considering the advantage of grip. But now, this is the fight for P2. It's 3 wide between Hamilton, Gasly, and who else is Albon in the other Red Bull. We go around the outside of Lewis Hamilton. That is for P4 in this race. He nearly comes back at it to take a late line. Next is the podium runners of Gasly and Albon. They run in deep. We cut them back, and we get both of them in the fast chicane. We are now in P2 in this Mexican Grand Prix, and we can chase down Max Verstappen. But that was probably... No, I'm going to stick my neck out here and say that's the best overtake I've ever made in a career mode of 41 seasons. Look at this. These two going too deep. I knew exactly what was going to happen. They were going to run out wide, off to the right, and I made sure that I could put my car over to the left and switch back both of them. So here we go, in slow motion. This is exactly everything playing out. I had to make sure I got over to the left so I could get on the power nice and early. I sacrificed that corner to get the best exit possible, fly past Gasly, who actually made contact there, right rear on end plate, and in extreme circumstances that would be a puncture on simulation damage. We got away with that. And then Albon. Albon was a little bit more difficult to overtake because I had to leave him space on this next right-hander. I knew that he would kind of run wide into my line because he's on the mediums and doesn't have as much grip. But look at this! Oh, just a paper-tight gap, able to squeeze around the outside of the Red Bull driver, and that is how we forced our way into P2, overtaking 3 cars in as many corners, I would say. Unbelievable comeback this has been. We started P22 in this race, guys. Do you remember? Like 20 minutes ago, we were having engine penalties because I didn't switch to the brand new components in time. But now, we find ourselves chasing down the championship-elect Max Verstappen. He's on target to win the championship right now, with Bottas down beyond the top 5. So Max is going to want to make sure that he gets to the end without a DNF. But me, I've got nothing to lose in this race. I am catching Verstappen still at about a second a lap. Such is the advantage of the soft over the hard. I still can't fathom why Red Bull put him on this strategy. He could have easily gone on mediums to the end. He put himself into traffic early to go into this strategy. It just made absolutely no sense. But it's gifted us the golden opportunity to win this race. We've got 3 laps to go, including this one that we're switching onto now, and the gap is 1.5 seconds. As soon as we can get within 1 second, which will be happening at the end of this lap, we are going to leapfrog onto the back of Max Verstappen. But we are running out of time, and we are running out of delta. The deeper we get into this race, the faster Max gets and the slower I get, because my tires are going to wear out way, way faster than Verstappen. So I've got to keep pushing. I've got to keep putting the pressure on and just make sure that I get this move done as quickly as I humanly can, because Max may be pretty strong on the very last lap and may come back towards us. But fortuitously for us, Latifi gets in the way of Verstappen, holds him up a little bit, and that enables us to just be that little bit closer now as we head on to the last lap of the Mexican Grand Prix. And this could be our one and only chance to win this race. We're in the slipstream of Max. We're going to go up in a rich and overtake. Are we going to send the battery all the way to depletion? Probably not on this straight. We're going to wait for the next straight. Try and get a nice run. We've still got really good traction in the rear tires. We're going to utilize that. Max getting a bit wayward on those hard compound tires. We're up in a rich and overtake. Max goes defensive, but we're going to force the issue up the inside into the middle sector. And that is the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix on the last lap. We have gone from last...
Nice move. Good job.
Thank you, Jeff. We have gone from last to first in a career mode race in not the fastest car. We are still the 7th fastest car in this field. But we have absolutely blitzed the field today with amazing strategy. Yes, we've got very lucky. I will say this. We got lucky with the traffic today. They held up all of our rivals. Strategy blunders for Verstappen has gifted us this second win of the season. I can't believe it.
Great job. You've done everything we wanted today.
So there we go, guys. That is probably the most mental race of the season. I know my memory is short, but that was pretty crazy to go from last to first. Max Verstappen doesn't look too phased about losing the win. All that matters for him is that he won the championship. Celebrates with Scott. I mean, that probably says it all with the strategy right there. But yeah, I think for the first time, or maybe the second time ever in a career mode of mine, Verstappen wins a championship. He's usually pretty unlucky with those sorts of things, but not this season. No one can deny him of that one. But yeah, what a mental race. Guys, if you enjoyed, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more racing game content. We are winners again in F1 in this season. After the turmoil of the winter break, being sent back to obscurity, only faster than Williams, we've recovered really well. We're in the mix with the top 7 teams, and a great setup, great strategy, great race management has enabled us to cut through the field like a hot knife in butter. That was absolutely mental. That's up there with the OP dominance of last season towards the back end of it. I can't believe we just did that. And to go with that as well, we had that amazing overtake on Albon and Gasly. Anyway, that's it from me today. Red Bull have a driver's champion once again in F1. Mercedes really threw that away this season by not keeping Jack Aitken, by signing Lewis Hamilton. If they should have got rid of anyone, it should have been Bottas that they axed. The only person who could challenge Max Verstappen this season was kicked out of Mercedes. Jack Aitken had just as many points as Max, and Mercedes have absolutely shot themselves in the foot. So let's see how they rebound next season. Will they re-sign Jack Aitken? Who the hell bloody knows? But I've thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and I hope you guys have too. Until the next one, the season finale of Season 4, it's the Brazilian Grand Prix. Until then, I'll see you next time.